introduction.
Hi, guys. Welcome to the Pilosopo podcast. I'm your host, Jigga Jr., and our guest today is the General Manager of BMW and the EVP of Gateway Motors, Mr. Michael Goho. Good day, Michael.
Good day, good morning.
And thank you so much for joining us in the Pilosopo podcast. So one of the reasons why I touched base with Mike is that I saw a post of his Facebook account about religion, about beliefs. He actually reviewed the two of the books that I have read, God is Not Great and The God Delusion by Richard Dawkins, and we made some very colorful comments about that in a thread, and I thought I'd bring the conversation out here in the Pilosopo podcast.
Thanks for having me.
And I enjoyed spectacularly the conversation that we had on Facebook, and I want to bring it here face to face, mano a mano. But before we go there, I'd like to ask you this question. This is what I always ask my guests. What is your spiritual, your educational, your family background that has led you to who you have become now and has helped you form your beliefs now?
Well, I started as a Catholic. Well, I grew up as Catholic, but I didn't really look into it. It was more like a routine lang dito. As you're growing up in a Catholic school, you're taught certain things, but you don't really accept them to heart. So, throughout my life, I've always been somewhat of an agnostic. Like, I had no clear belief system. But, yeah, na ako yung mga gipangtuuhan. Like, it's mayo magbinutan, of course, like the basic things of ethics or morality. But I never really dug deep into that subject because I thought, in a way, ever since, I've always been anti-religion. Like, sa mukan ko makadungog ko about these priests getting into these scandals or about the churches, the church institutions now, how they exploit people and how they create a false narrative where they add certain things or they get into politics kung pinapulpul sila. So those things turned me off about religion. So I was always somewhat, you would say, looked out. Ganun. Anything goes.
In limbo, would that be a correct word?
In a way, it's like I just thought life was about acquire lang tayo.
How old were you when you started being what, as you said, sort of like an agnostic?
Ever since.
Like
Ever since I was a kid, I didn't really have a solid belief system. But I thought more we just live and we acquire wealth and we survive. More nabuhi ta until we die. That was a very nihilistic or hedonistic type of.
So those were your beliefs, in spite of the fact that you were educated in a Christian Catholic school from grade school until college.
Yeah, that was really done more out of compliance.
Yeah. Okay.
Sunod lang kas mga litundos teachers, but there was no real transformation. There was no real commitment or no.
Why do you think that was so? Why did it sort of stick? Why was your entire life's worth of education, indoctrination, if you will, not have any impact on you?
Well, there's a lot of uncertainty you see around in life. Like, no one really knows what absolute truth is. Like, even among Christian denominations, there's a lot of petty quarrels among these different church groups, or even the different religions of the world that can create different belief system na wa'choy kahumanan ilang mga lalis, which is a sad thing because it's creating so much division. And that really turned me off, as I said, about religion. So anything about God before mairit ko. If you met me maybe 5 years ago, masamukan ko tao na just noon or mairit ko anything related to that.
So, what is your current belief system? Because I sort of saw your post on Facebook that you're sort of anti religion but pro God.
Yes.
Is that
I would
correct?
say I'm pro God, anti-religion.
So can you because I was really intrigued by that position. So you're anti-religion but pro God.
Anti-man-made religion, just to clarify.
Anti-man-made religion, but isn't all religion man-made?
Yeah, that's the premise. It's either all religions are true,
Mm.
which can't be the case.
Mhm.
It's or either all religions are false,
Mhm.
or only one religion is true.
Okay.
So
So-
I would.
Describe to our viewers what your position is.
So my position would be I'm inclined with Christianity.
Mhm.
Over the past 2 years, that's been a preoccupation of mine
Mhm.
because out of all these religions, Christianity seems to hold the truth
Mhm.
out of everything because Christianity is unique in itself.
Mhm.
Like for one, Christianity shows that there's a claim that Jesus is God, diba? No other religion claimed that God sila, diba? Si Muhammad, lahi man tumura sila prophet.
Mm.
But only Christianity, Jesus claimed that He's God. And with other religions,
You mean like an actual person that walked the face of the earth?
yes,
Was
an
that?
actual person. And Christianity, you have to understand, it's actually an objective and evidence-based faith,
Mhm.
objective and intellectual faith
Mhm.
that you can look up.
Mhm.
You can try to dispute or refute Christianity, but murag to no avail. Many have tried, but wala jud.
Mm.
So that's what makes it different. Because religion, the difference is religion is people try to work their way through performance, through effort, by getting God to accept them. That's the notion most people have. Na magbinutan ko para murag point
Malangit para malangit.
murag point system ba? Murag gud mo eskwela kag college
So
or
you're against doctrine. You're against dogma. Is that what you're trying to say, sir?
not really. What I just want to emphasize is that I've come to realize that the Christian God is relational. There's a relational aspect because ever since I've always viewed God as this dictator, someone who really imposes certain things. Yan, mura bitaw ka ng dikta ka live freely. That's why it really turned me off for so long. But then I realized if we lived our lives as freely as we could, do anything you want kind of freedom, yeah, what's that type of inan? That only leads to self-destruction. Let's say if kita mo trabaho 1 week or 1 month, na repercussions.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Or if you just had as much sex as you want for pleasure, na consequences. Masakit ka, or you live a very empty life. Maybe you get the pleasure, but you don't get that real joy that people look for. Because everyone in the world, if you notice that ang tao nangita mo ka ng joy, or ka ng they want to be loved. And for me, Christianity offers that. Jesus
Speaking of
Christ.
joy, there's a idea that I've believed in for a long time about joy. They say, I think this is a Buddhist belief that joy is uncaused. True joy is your actual default mode, supposedly, and just the world happens to you, and then it causes you to feel other emotions. But true joy is uncaused. Like, for example, if we just stop for a moment right now here in this room and examine this moment without thinking about the past or the future, just right now, I think that they say is true joy. It's not caused by any external factors. What is your concept of joy? Because you were talking about how people are dissatisfied and they can have all the sex they want. They can have all the, what's joy? What's true joy for you?
True joy is my fulfillment, contentment.
So where can you find
real
that?
peace. I'm saying it can't be found here in this world.
Okay.
Because murag this world is fallen. If you read the news, taga-adlaw na siya problema. Bisan everyday in our lives na siya problema. Pero sige, tagkayo, taga-adlaw. Nabuhi, para makakaon, para mamuerta. Diba?
So you think the world is getting worse? Is that what you're trying to say, sir?
Not really getting worse. It's just that the world has always been in that fallen state. And there's no perfection that you can find in the world. And you can, the only answer to that is this, is Christianity. Through Jesus Christ, Jesus exemplified that unconditional love.
What if
that selfless kind of love.
What if I told you that there's an actual statistic that says that the world is actually getting better? I don't know if you're familiar with Steven Pinker and Better Angels. There's actually real statistic that says that there's less violence now, less corruption, less strife, less anything. If you just look at big history, if you look at the trajectory of our lives as human beings, the world is actually getting better. The thing is, because of media, because of technology, we know all the worst parts about us because it's news, right? You know, when there's actually less war now in the world than, let's say, 50 years ago, 100 years ago. You know, there was a time when, you know, every single country was at war with each other, but now there's only a few. So the world actually is getting better, and I think the state that you're looking at, perfection might not be achieved, but I think we can come close.
I would say the world is getting better in certain aspects. Of course, technology like Facebook, social media, that kind of good, but with everything that's happening. But there's also a lot of destruction going on from all this subjective mentality. Karon the world is also becoming more and more subjective, more and more relativistic. And when you say relativistic, people have their own versions of the truth.
The truth, yeah.
And truth is never changes, as I mentioned sa katong comments. Truth never changes, but our perspective of truth changes. Mauna, tanaw ta, the sky has always been blue. Or kung laki ang tao, laki good siya. Karon na may mga belief system na usab na bitaw.
But don't you think that so you don't believe that the truth is fluid? You don't believe that?
No, truth is absolute. There is objective truth.
So give me an example.
But no one really has that. But we should be inclined to seek truth.
Give me an example of a truth that's unwavering. A practical example.
Truth, like the world is round. That's
a lot of people think it's flat. You know, the flat earthers, right? You've heard of those.
Yeah. But that's been proven. Science will further support
the roundness of the world.
Yeah. As technology advances, there will be more.
So why do you think there are still people who believe that the world is flat? Why do you think?
Some people can be very subjective. As I said, naman ay subjective.
Objective.
Ang tao usually subjective. They lean on their feelings,
their biases, right?
Like para nila, like kung yung ko babae ko, para niya iyan ang truth na babae siya or babae ko, yung ko babae ko. Di man dyan ma-dispute na I'm not a woman. So kung subjective ang tao, mo sila, babae siya. So siya magbuot-buot mo yung problema. Kung buot-buot around the world. But instead, we should be seeking objective truth, not distorting truth, which is creating more destruction in the world. Would you agree?
So I'm curious how you unwavering truth is, because of course the world is round, and that to you is an absolute truth. You've never been to space. Have you ever been to space, sir? If you don't mind me asking you, have you ever gone to space in a spaceship and seen the world as it is round, or are you just going on faith on the scientists? The astronauts.
Based on the evidence that has been presented and that has been accepted as objective truth. But
so what is your
for example, have you met Abraham Lincoln? You haven't met
No, of course not.
But historical records show that this person was really alive at a certain time. But do you need to actually meet or see this person actually live or see videos or made videos that time? So how can we know if actually
Abraham Lincoln
or But then, as the world has progressed, now video.
Yeah, they're historians, yeah, who were there, right? People who wrote, like who were able to describe the existence of Abraham Lincoln.
Yes,
Yeah,
yes.
and they wrote about it.
There were astronauts who went to space and
Yeah.
have seen that
Yeah.
the world is round.
Yeah.
Who have circumnavigate. Si Magellan,
Mm.
tulog
Mm.
sa Earth. So,
So there was actual recording of the incident, right? Of the astronauts landing on the moon,
Mm.
and not actually a video or a photograph of the Earth,
Mm.
and it was and still is indeed round.
yes, yes.
So that's an unwavering truth, right?
Kind of unwavering.
And those flat earthers, those people who believe that the world is flat,
they are.
so they're denying the fact.
They are in
denial.
denial, or they are very subjective, or
Mm.
they don't submit to facts,
Mhm.
or they choose to lean on their own personal understanding. So, kinda. But then, people are free to believe what they want to believe.
So let's get back to your personal belief.
But just to clarify about this whole conversation
Mm.
we're having, I don't claim to know everything.
Yeah, of course, nobody does.
Or I don't claim to know so much
Uh,
about
uh,
a subject. I'm saying is I'm inclined to this, and it has helped me in my own personal life.
nobody knows everything, right?
Yeah, exactly.
In fact, the reason why I'm doing the Pilosopo podcast is because I don't know anything, and I want to listen to smart people like you enlighten me.
Well, I
So-
wouldn't say that, yeah. But I'm constantly seeking for answers, and I'm still very much in the early stages or beginner stage. So, yeah.
If you really think about it, based on data that scientists have gathered, the universe has been around for at least 14.8 or 13.8 billion years, right?
Yes.
And then that's a mighty that we can't possibly wrap our heads around that amount of time that has passed us by and how much we do not know.
Yes, there are things we absolutely
And
can't
I-
grasp.
And I don't think we will ever grasp.
Yes.
Ever. You
Because
know,
we're limited atong utok.
in our
Isa-
lifetimes,
isa pa
right?
ng Kataas IQ sa aning tao, limited
Yeah.
jud na
Yeah. Yeah.
ang mag-grasp sa human being.
But the same instruments that measured the age of the universe is probably the same instruments, maybe not now, maybe in a million years from now, will get us closer to an absolute truth of some sort.
Yes. And I'm thankful to science that have discoveries that has led to more
Mhm.
findings which has led us closer to the truth.
In fact, the opposite of religion, I would say, is science, because science is constantly debunking each other. It's constantly proving each other wrong all the time. In fact, when you have a discovery now, you notice that tomorrow it's going to be different. You know what I mean? Like, that's wrong, actually. You know, and scientists relish that. That's
But for me, because people have this view, it's science versus religion. For me, it's science of God. They support each other.
Mhm.
Same way Henry Ford supports engineering
Okay.
or literature,
Okay.
and Shakespeare go hand in hand. So for me, God and science go hand in hand.
I don't want to.
Now, na differentiation.
I don't want to short
science
circuit
versus
this.
religion.
I don't want to short circuit this interview, but
Yeah.
I don't want to sort of leapfrog. But what is the? I just want to ask this question before we go back. What is the scientific evidence of the Judeo-Christian God that you are more inclined to believe?
Well, Christianity is jud ang cornerstone sa Christianity, and that's the resurrection of Jesus Christ.
So what's the scientific
So
evidence on that?
if this historical event happened, then everything must be true, or this holds substantial weight in our lives.
So again, what's the question is, what is the scientific evidence?
There
of
are
that?
sources outside the Bible that have shown there was a person named Jesus Christ,
Uh-huh.
and he did certain things, and
What book is this?
nothing can explain the empty tomb.
What book is this that has explained
There
that?
have been a lot of apologetics books. Like if you cite sources outside the Bible, like the historicity of Jesus, there were Roman historians such as Josephus, Tacitus outside the Bible niya. Kaya na may daghan mo ingon na you're proving the proving Christianity with the Bible na we doubt the Bible in itself. So kana mura sa nag self-refuting. So kana to be para why bias cite as sources wala sa Bible. And there have been a lot of evidence, but I can't name all of them, but there is sufficient.
You know that the shroud of Turin has been debunked, right?
Yes, that has been debunked. Kana for me katong tulaging girap si Jesus. Kana lisod na kayo na di ba? Just a shroud. You can't say much from that. But ako ang basis of the resurrection of Jesus, and there have been a lot of evidence or enough evidence.
Like what, for example? Because most of the things that are written about Jesus Christ or people who wrote about it 50 years after his existed, right? So human beings are not very good storytellers. We always edit. We always include our agenda. We always say things the way we see it, and unless it happened with a video camera in front of somebody, and us seeing the video, we can even still suspect that it might have been graphically enhanced, right? Or somebody inserted something in the video.
That's possible. For example, if people rewrote certain things or twisted the original scriptures, and there have been a lot of intellectuals who have pushed for that sa nabasa, usap na. I would say universally ang essence napadiha pa. Like even if
what do you mean by the essence? What does
the
that
essence of the message of the gospel? Di ba Matthew, Mark, Luke, John? Pareha ra ilang ang consistency ba sa Bible. Because the Bible is unique in itself. Some people say, tao ra may gahimo ang Bible. But if you look at it, ang Bible has stood the test of time. It's unique in itself. And it's consistent, and it was written by different people throughout history. It was written by fishermen, tax collector, lain-lain of background, pobre, dato.
So you think that the Bible is superior to, let's say, the Quran, for example?
Definitely, because the Bible is known as the objective will of God, or the undisputed kind of word of God.
So, 100% true, the Bible?
I would say the Bible holds the truth.
Are there truths in the Bible? Are there non-truths in the Bible?
For me, it still requires a lot of study. Kay namay mo ingon na di ba ang Bible daghan man kay contradictions or some man like the concept ipapatay katong slaves, like there are things na lisod pa noon in class, and that's why it also requires an intellectual.
It reflected the savagery of the times. Those killings that you mentioned, those offering of children, and all that stuff. That actually was reflection of that time.
Yeah.
And all-seeing, omnipresent God would not look at the universe only from that period of time. If he knows everything, he would probably write let's say the cure to cancer in the Bible. You know what I mean? He would know if he was all seeing, all powerful. He would have given us a sort of like clues on how to live life in 2019. He would have had because everything that is happening with us now, not a single leaf that falls from the tree. He has counted the hairs in our head. And all that stuff which is written in the Bible, he knows all of that. So, how do you explain suffering? How do you explain, let's say, a tsunami that kills innocent children? How do you explain that?
Yeah.
In the context
for
of
example,
what you believe in the Bible.
For me, I had this view now we were just a simulation, because I also had
Matrix.
I also had this worldview sa una na deistic. I thought may God, but not a personal God. And sometimes I still battle with that idea. Okay, for me, when someone claims to be Christian or a believer, dili na kanang lamo-lamo lang, or dili na kanang sayon-sayon na statement. I can't claim I'm Christian because being a Christian entails a lot of holding accountable, or a lot of lisod ba ng pagka-Christian. So you have to act on it. it's not just something you say. You have to live it
Yeah, yeah.
through your actions.
Like Christ did.
Exactly. And
In essence. So how do you explain
Christ
suffering?
was a radical figure.
At that time, yeah. For
So-
sure. He was a rebel. He was a rebel.
In a way, he was this charismatic figure.
Mhm.
Nga humandaghan ni oppose niya like kinsa man ni slave, I mean, carpenter or low class person who's claiming he's God.
How dare he?
How
Yeah.
dare he?
Yeah, yeah.
Grabe ka blasphemous. Mao to daghan nairit niya.
Mm.
And nairit niya ang katong mga religious leaders.
Yeah, for sure. So
And which led to his crucifixion.
So how do you explain
But then-
innocent children suffering? How do you explain tsunamis that kills thousands of people?
Yeah.
Where was God when the child was, sitting there in his room helplessly waiting for the tsunami to kill him?
I struggle with those thoughts also, like ano na suffering, ano lisod kang kalibutan. Pero with Jesus Christ, he also came to this earth, took part in our suffering, and that explains the nature of God. That's how Christianity would explain it. Pero ang suffering, we were given free will because God does not make a simulation na we are just puppets. Kaya kung puppets siya tao, siya rin magbuot niya. Maratag part of this grand scheme and we can't do anything and we're just going about like some computer. So, but God doesn't work that way, I would say. We're not a freedom, and true, there is suffering. And which is why this world is very much in a fallen state. It's in a sad state where we're constantly striving, we're constantly suffering. Some are more well off than others, but constant suffering is there.
Constant suffering is there. So what do you think is what do you attribute this fallen state of the world? Adam and Eve eating the apple?
I would say this fallen state is due to that sinful nature that has been embedded in us. And if you look around, ever since we were children, we always have that inclination to sin or to do. There's this battle of good and evil, like natay goodness, pero nasa tay tendency mahangol, like greed, lust, or lust for
Seven deadly
power.
sins. So.
Like kana 7 deadly sins, natay kaning hugaw jud ba? Pragma.
So you attribute
Ang
that.
kasing-kasing sa tao, hugaw.
So you attribute that to Adam and Eve.
I would say, but that's hard to grasp because I haven't studied enough on everything about the Bible. I haven't read the Bible fully, but it explains well that man fell, and that's why everyone, no exception, no perfect person in the world, everyone is in a constant fallen state.
So God
And everyone strives to be good, but that cannot be done through effort, that cannot be done through their own kanang performance. Kayod sila
So God didn't know that He would tempt Adam. He created Adam and took a rib from Adam and created Eve, but He didn't know that because He gave them free will, that Eve would tempt Adam to eat from the tree of knowledge.
Yeah.
So
God, serpent, diba?
God
which is Satan.
So who created Satan?
In a way, mao to ang concept of Lucifer, this fallen angel na idako yang ko, yan mao to.
So he's
banished.
human. This Lucifer guy is also
He's
like a
a
human.
cherub. It's in the Bible that he's a cherub.
What's a cherub?
Or kanang, I can't grasp it.
Okay.
Because I haven't read up everything.
We
As
watched
I-
Lucifer the series.
Yeah, that's quite a characterization
Yeah, I know.
of Lucifer, but it's done for entertainment and some of it.
It's true.
Okay,
Okay.
okay.
Biblical, right? Biblical.
Some truth, but some get twist for entertainment
Yeah,
purposes.
for sure, yeah.
Pero yeah,
So what is
he's
a cherub?
a fallen angel. He was like.
But he was God's entrusted.
In a way, human auto. His head.
So how can He create an imperfect angel?
He didn't create an imperfect angel. Mauto ang.
He gave him a free will.
Di mauto ni dako yang o. Mauto. He chose to.
I'm a bitch, man.
Yeah, di ko.
So if God didn't create Lucifer, things would be fine and dandy. We wouldn't be in a fallen state now.
We cannot grasp that because, as I said, limited yung mga itong understand.
But there was a book that was written about it. You know, like
Which book?
the Bible.
The Bible.
Yeah, you mentioned the Bible. You know, like about Lucifer, about Genesis, about the beginning of time, about the age of the universe, which is like I don't know 2,000 years for a lot of Christians, because that's
2,000 since katong historical
the
event of Christ dying on the cross, or
or 5,000 years.
But
basically.
before that, that's beyond us, and as I said, kuwang pa akong knowledge yata dito. But what I'm saying is, kanina lang ko yung personal realizations, and through my experience, that has led me to where I am now. And it's some namay daghan butang we cannot fully answer. So, like Lucifer, it's still hard for me to put that into words, but it is what it is. It's what's stated in the Bible.
So it is what it is. It is what is stated in the Bible. So you believe that the Bible is again. I asked the question earlier. 100% true.
As I said, I don't even claim to be fully Christian.
So you
right now, I'm just a seeker
Okay,
of
okay.
truth.
Okay.
I would characterize myself as a seeker. I wouldn't say na Christian ko, na Bible, or pasa-pasa, Bible, basa. Dili nga. But now I'm inclined towards Christianity because it holds certain answers that other religions or other worldviews can never satisfy. For me personally. So that's personal. And that's why each journey is different. Like lain ang mindset sa tao. And I struggled with those questions before. Like, sige, kung pangutang, even now, I still have a lot of these questions. But I try to seek for truth. And because there was a time na I became intellectually lazy, like, bahal, to hell with religion, to hell with God. Let's just live our lives. Let's just acquire money and just have some fun until we age and make sure for ourselves. But life is more complex than that. So that has led me to
An unexamined life is a life not worth living. Who said that? Some dead guy, right? Who examined his life?
Sure, there have been many philosophers with different, like say Thomas Paine, lahi man sa to iya. He was a deist. He didn't believe in a personal God, na who intervenes or who answers prayers. That was like idols at that time, Christopher Hitchens.
Yes.
And you hear people now like Jordan Peterson, who's inclined to Christianity, but then what sets him go full blown Christian, or like naapay, because he's a psychologist, so naapay mga different brands, like may apologetics, na yung mga hardcore atheists, na yung mga Gnostics, sakto lang. Yan, nasa yung mga fake Christians, or what you would say, blind faith believers, like they just believe because tawaton lang kay ganahan lang sila maluwas. And that's also Pascal's wager.
Yeah.
Pascal's wager says like if
you don't believe in God,
like ato lang timbangon mas pabor man ka if you believe in God, so believe in God. But that's blind faith.
What if hell is true, right?
Yeah.
So you can burn forever, right?
That's a very like binary view of it. Kay makakag magkayon. Sige mo, tuo lang ko kay hadlok ko. So it's a fear-based.
Yeah. People actually react and act more if you scare them.
Yeah.
Scare tactics. So do you believe somebody's watching us right now? This interview, a entity that you call God,
A deity?
a deity, watching this interview right now.
I would say because there's an omnipresence, but there are things, as I said, we can't grasp. But I would believe certain things in life show that there is a God, like things that happen. Dili ra bitaw ka ng random occurrences.
Can you give our viewers and listeners an example of that?
For example, the
that
birth.
proves the existence of God.
For example, things like love, you can't explain. Like love or kaning mga things like virtue or things that are intangible that are only in humans.
Love, virtue.
Love, virtue, or all those adjectives that describe certain things that are not present in animals, but are only in humans. That show that
how do you know that animals don't
that
love?
show that we are just beyond physical. Okay, there are some things that mani mo maprobe sa microscope. That would you say you love your son?
Yeah, because I am genetically
Yeah, but where does that come from?
inclined to do that because one of the reasons why we the reason why we procreate, one
Not
of the
just
reasons why-
love, but things like
Yes.
working hard in the gym so you get good results. Where do these things
Well, that's
stem
back-
from?
well,
Like there are complexities in this.
but
in this life.
isn't our agenda as a life form, human beings, to survive?
Yes.
Yeah,
yes.
we have been very successful at survival. In fact, I think I would imagine we are one of the most successful life forms in the planet. Right, we are already 7.3 billion strong and counting. So we are a very successful life form. You know, the elephants. There's only 30,000 of them in the savannas of Africa, and some of the animals have become extinct. Us, our kind, on the other hand, have been very successful because we were lucky enough to evolve a brain. So I think those things, compassion, striving to work hard, maybe going to the gym. I think those are evolutionary traits that has led to the success of our species. I think we were hunters and gatherers before, right? So we would run and look for our food, and we wouldn't be able to eat if we didn't catch anything, right?
Itong mga caveman.
Oh, that's why intermittent fasting works because we were built for to be hungry, right? So I'm gonna give you a clear example.
People thought fasting was bad.
Yeah. Well, it depends also on the constitution of your stomach because some people have really acidic stomachs and they can't really do intermittent fasting. What I'm trying to say is, fasting is good because there was a time when we got hungry before as well. So those are things that have been handed down from generation to
Me, all I'm
generation.
saying is there's objective truth.
Yeah.
As humans, we were given a brain
Yeah.
to inquire truth, to seek.
So, by the way, do you believe in evolution, as Darwin saw it,
That we came from apes or something.
from single cells?
Okay, single
Yeah,
cell.
yeah, yeah,
Well,
yeah.
I'm not very inclined to evolution. Okay, there are things that sa evolution us coming from apes, that's somewhat of a stretch.
In spite of, but you've read of the origin of the species, right? And
Kuwang pa akong knowledge. Yeah.
and about dinosaurs. Did Noah put dinosaurs up in the how did he put the T-Rex in
In the boat,
the boat? Yeah.
that's something we can grab. That's Old Testament that happened a long time ago. So as I said, I don't claim to be this Bible expert. I don't claim to be this God expert.
So why was it written there? Why was it written there?
It was written to show something, to show the sinfulness of man, the fall that God wanted the world to be cleansed.
Or maybe it was because of the ignorance of their time. I mean, we're right now having this
Yeah, but we
conversation.
cannot grasp that time. What we know is how we live now.
Well, we understand the Earth to be 13.8 billion years. We know a lot about our circumstance now. And whether we like it or not, this interview, if we can save this one, which is probably very
Yeah, but what I'm
likely.
saying is, ang life, para na po, it's better if you're inclined to living your life if there is, on the assumption there is a God.
On the
than
assumption. On the
rather
assumption.
than there's no God.
Okay. If we
Because it provides a moral framework.
so there's so many things here I want to talk about. I'm getting confused now. First of all, if we save this interview and we watch this one 2,000 years from now,
Yeah.
we would look like fools, right? Because we are just victims of the ignorance of our time.
Of our
We know nothing compared to what we need to know. So we will look a bunch. Mike Goho and Jiggy Jr. will look like a bunch of fools to inhabitants of this planet 2,000 years from now, if the planet is still here, by the way. So we are all victims of the ignorance of our time,
And
and
that's why we seek truth.
why would you seek truth and assume something? You mentioned you're more inclined to believe that there's a God, but you're assuming that there is a God, but you're seeking truth. Isn't it better to search for the truth without any assumptions?
As I said, it's not an assumption because there are evidences for the Christian
Okay.
faith. As I
Okay.
said,
Okay.
it is an intellectual and objective faith. You can look it up.
Okay.
I can challenge you to try to disprove Christianity.
You can't.
And many
disprove-
have.
oh.
And no. There were many stories of atheists who have tried to debunk Christianity and they think it's just some cult, but then there had been a transformation and their minds have changed. They really looked up like the historical evidences surrounding it.
So you mentioned the phrase moral framework. Christianity gives the world a moral framework, gives you a moral framework. So you're saying that if there was no religion, we would just kill each other?
As I said, all I'm emphasizing is a relationship with a deity. So people are entitled to believe what they want to believe. They're free, but then some people there want to seek certain truths.
So again, the question: where do we get our? Why am I not trying to kill you right now? And
So asam nalikan, where did the conscience come from? Or things like where does this innate goodness come from? Because you look around,
survival. Isn't that survival?
There is a law of universal right and wrong. Nadjay,
Yeah.
that's a law of
Yeah.
human nature. Nadjay, sense of right and wrong. ng tao. So where did that come from? That sense of right
So
and wrong?
for survival.
Survival, right and wrong. So ang tao, for you, wala konsensya pag kanang bata, like someone who was born. Then he just developed a conscience because it was given by his parents. His parents taught him, "Pagbilutang ka." So if wala na, we would be killing each other.
I don't know if you're familiar with the book, The Selfish Gene.
So innately, you would be killing people if wala lay law or wala lay justice system na
No,
mapriso ka.
we will not do that because our purpose, our design is to make sure that we propagate. Again, we have been very successful.
Yeah, I have had that thinking also.
We're 7 billion strong now.
But
So
for me, there's something beyond that embedded that in human beings. And it's just not some random thing. Oh, survival. Sige, magbinutan ko. There's something beyond that still cannot be rationalized by just evolution or just na-develop lang. Ang tao, buotan lang. Hindi sila magpatyan. There's something more behind that.
yeah, but why does it have to be a god? I'm sure there is, but we don't know what it is. But why do you assume? Why do you have to put something there in that vacuum?
Vacuum?
In that you mentioned you don't understand. We don't know.
We don't know fully everything.
Why do you put something there? Why don't you just?
Because as I said, this is an intensely personal thing. Like a belief system. Like people, karon like mga turo sila, they're inclined to believe all sorts of things. But all I'm saying is objectivity, seeking truth. Period. We don't know all the answers, but we should at least try to seek truth, and it can give us more answers. And it has led to where we are today because humans naturally seek for answers.
And I think
and the last thing we want is to be intellectually lazy. To be intellectually lazy and just stop, just care less about the deeper questions about life. Because of course we want to ask the deeper questions. Otherwise we'd just be going about, how it is, routine sa world kay anak, ngitag trabaho, ngitag asawa, sugod og pamilya, manginabuhi, have a social circle, have a support system. But
you think there's more than that.
There should be more than that because there's a lot of uncertainty in life. Mabuo kin na buhay. You could die anytime. You could get a disease anytime.
You could have poisoned me and then I died
Yeah.
after this interview.
Yeah, anything can happen, or someone can be run over by a bus. Like there's so much uncertainty.
It's so random, right? It's
Yeah.
so the world is so random.
It's so random, and yet it's so finely tuned. Not actually.
Finely, what do you mean by finely tuned?
There's fine tuning everywhere, like the design of the human body. It's very complex.
By the way, it's the worst design. An intelligent designer would not have placed our reproductive organs beside our you know, our butts.
Yes.
You know what I mean? And the eyes and the ears. You know,
And
this is very.
But would you say there's intelligence behind that design?
I wouldn't say that, but like I said, this is not. We are not perfectly designed. You know, there's so many You know, I have a pug, right? He's got a flat nose, can barely breathe. Who the hell designed this thing? But it's just so adorable, right? So
Yeah.
you can see that life forms are so imperfect. We are so imperfect. We have cancer, for crying out loud, you know?
Uncertain ang kinabuhi. That's
so-
why someone can die anytime.
Yeah. So
Someone can have
So-
can live a really superficial life full of fakeness, but then it's
So it's imperfect. So maybe it's just evolution.
All I'm saying is people wanna seek that
Yeah.
real fulfillment that this world can't offer. So for me, God would provide that.
So how would you describe a fulfilling life, Mike? Like telescope, let's say 30, 40 years from now, when you're old and gray and you're 80 years old, and you look back at your life.
Well, there's been a study on that, and
What would be
people were
fulfilling for you?
interviewed. People were interviewed. There was a survey. There was a Harvard study on that the essence of life is basically on the depth of relationship, having meaning in relationships, real relationships, because that's what human beings.
No, but we're not talking about that. We're talking about your fulfillment, because you mentioned the world is not enough. So, telescope, 80 years old, Mike Goho. What would be a fulfilling life for you?
Fulfilling would be I'm not enslaved by. I'm free. When I say freedom, because people have this notion that freedom is doing whatever the hell you want. But when I talk about freedom, I mean freedom to be able to do what you ought to do. Because right now most of us are in bondage. Like some can't go a week without a drink, or some are dependent on
Drugs.
on drugs, for example. Like we're all enslaved a certain way, or some seek some form of temporary happiness from women, for example.
Driving a car as fast as they can.
Yeah. People constantly
Lain-lain yun kabuang.
Lain-lain kabuang. People look for certain highs, whether it's drug. Lain-lain man ang drug of choice ng tao. So uban kay kana gambling, uban booze, uban sex.
So you'll have none of that. So 80-year-old Mike.
80 years, I'm thinking I'm objective. I'm stable in a sense na I'm not enslaved. Like
Financially enslaved, you mean?
no,
Emotionally enslaved? What do you mean?
emotionally by my ego, because
Okay.
people struggle with pride and ego.
Yeah, for sure.
Because people are driven by self-interest.
For sure, yeah. That's why we're successful. That's why we're 7 billion strong.
Yeah,
That's
and that
why
has helped.
yeah.
That has helped.
Immensely.
Kanang tamakay sa mga tao. But then it doesn't necessarily lead to a fulfilling life if someone na kaning CEO na sige lang tamak, what your real relationships, he stepped on certain people to get ahead. That there wouldn't be much.
That's actually the evolutionary a way of looking at it. That's survival of the species. Survival of the fittest.
Survival
Of the fittest, yeah.
But if you see, there are problems around us, such as gipang patay, gipang murder, or may kanang uyab, yang may love triangle, gipatay ang iyang uyab, kay nasuya siya. There are things innately dirty in all over, you see, and it's a sad state. Like,
But again, the world is actually getting better.
yes,
It's statistically
getting
less
better,
murder, less
getting
war.
better in terms of technology.
No, in terms of less killing, less war.
killings,
Oh.
but
that's not a faction of
you hear
technology.
about stuff like ISIS, so not really completely.
No, we're talking about a statistical study. That
Which study is this?
Just Get On Better Angels by Steven Pinker. That's the book that graphs the decline of violence, the decline of war, the decline of suffering in general because of medical advancements. For example, an emperor could die of dengue or pneumonia, but now like pneumonia and dengue is just a day in the hospital. So it's because of the advancements in technology. So things are getting better.
Yeah, and that's good in itself that the world is improving, all this new discoveries, and that's good. And that's a testament of the greatness of the human race also. But you can't escape evil and suffering and all these things of people getting depressed, killing themselves, even people like Anthony Bourdain or Robin Williams who have achieved so much in their lives, who have fame, who have fortune, who have wealth, who have access to all the good things in life, and yet they chose to kill themselves. So,
That's I don't know.
nasa uban pobre na malipayo na sa sila. Nasa mga rich billionaires na maghikog. So,
I don't know if you remember the philosopher. The ultimate question in life is whether to kill yourself or not. So every day we decide to not do that because we have a life worth living for. We have something to live for. But they say that's the ultimate question. Every day we're faced with that, whether we like it or not. Are we gonna be here today or not? So, Mike, 80 years old. You're
hopefully, when I'm 80, of course, I know more truths. I'm more of an objective person.
When your body finally gives up, where are you going? Somewhere fluffy?
Hopefully, my soul gets eternal rest or eternal peace. In that sense.
So,
but there has to be some.
Describe to us what
there has
eternal
to be some
peace is.
kind of accountability in everything that we do. Describe what?
Eternity. Eternal. What did you say? How did you describe
Eternal peace.
Eternal peace. Describe to us. Is that a place? Is that
something we can't grasp? I wouldn't say a place because we're in our bodies now. So regarding the soul, there are things beyond our grasp. So I can't cover it completely.
But you believe there's an afterlife? Will your conscience continue to exist? Will you reincarnate? What's happening with Michael Goho? And I want to see another you in another life.
That's something, as I said, that can't be grasped.
So it's not in the books. It's not
in the books. There's a guarantee of eternal life.
So how's it described in the books, and do you believe in that book?
I haven't read enough on eternal.
What have you read so far?
I have read that there's eternal life if you put your trust and faith in Jesus, and I have seen that the nature of Jesus is he's all about love, all about unconditional love, which is why he died and paid for the sins of the world, and that was him showing that unconditional love, and that exemplifies the nature of that. So, in summary, basically that's it. As for what really happens as to our consciousness, as it relates to that, that's something we're very much limited. So I'll leave it at that. I'm not gonna explain something that I don't fully grasp. I'm not fully sure of. So I'm not gonna act like I know something when I do not. So basically, if my knowledge is limited,
I know somebody.
Otherwise, people would just look like fools if they blabber things that they don't fully grasp.
I know somebody who gets the same fulfillment, the same happiness, the same joy, the same framework, the same moral compass from the Quran. He believes.
How do you know?
And that's what he says.
from asking, from
From
what he
asking,
said verbally.
From talking to you, like what we're talking,
Yeah.
like how we're talking now. What would you tell that person? Would you tell him that he's wrong? He's reading the wrong book. You're reading the wrong book, bro. Go get a Bible.
People are inclined, like, for example, these Muslims na sila diha sa Middle East, lahi ilang upbringing, lahi ilang circumstance. So lahi, pero the Muslim faith doesn't really give us much substantial answers as Christianity does.
But he has the same satisfaction as you. What would you tell that person?
Akin man tao may satisfaction. Kaya ang tao na may uban atheist na
But what do you tell him? If he was here
they
with
live
us,
fulfilling lives, these atheists. Kaya malipay pa sila, malinaw.
what would you tell that
Sa
person?
one, but we don't really know what goes on in this person internally.
So
What I would tell that person, just seek truth.
So you would not introduce him. You would not have the urge to show him your book.
No, I would not be inclined to be imposing. I could share my personal journey or my personal beliefs or personal inclinations with Christianity now, but I wouldn't impose. I wouldn't try to put someone into a mold, or I wouldn't try to shove something like no.
If you don't mind, Mike, do you go to church? Do you go to mass?
Church. I used to go to church, but I've seen that the church now has become very divisive. It's become very ego-driven in a way, collective ego. Like it's somewhat like a social club now.
Well, it's always been a social club.
And you hear about these priests molesting children. You hear about these scandals in the church, which turned me off.
So you don't anymore.
No, I don't go to church.
But wasn't it
when you say church building,
like a building, yeah, like a
church building or any form of like
wasn't it in the Bible that the body of Christ will be the foundation of
for me
when one or few of you gather around the Lord is there.
Yeah, it's okay to gather around, but some
not in
of
a
these
church.
churches they aren't biblical. They choose to lean on their own cliches, like may mga homily sa pare na sila rin but himo ka ng mura ra sila Dr. Phil or mura ra sila ka ng ilang own self-help guru, which is not biblical. So or mahog ka ron ang mga simbahan or pangwarta na lang.
So what do you think is the reason why the Catholic Church, Christianity in general, is on a decline? Why do you think less and less people are believe in the book?
Decline? What makes you say it's on a decline? There's data. Can you provide data?
Yeah, there is data. They're more agnostic and
well, I would say the sadness of what you see around, which is why I was an agnostic, because I can't grasp how these priests can consider themselves holy and yet have sex on the side or do all sorts of, or their lives don't exemplify it. So kung kita ang tao na ipari na yan kinabuhi ang anima.
Basig tao ra sa siya.
Mana, tao ra, exactly. Tao ra siya. Ano mo claim siya holy and priest, or siya mo forgive of sins, or siya lang so things like that have turned off people, and it's true. Katong ingon ni Christopher Hitchens, religion poisons everything. I would agree na ang religion naka-distort yun. And which is why naghantig away, may kibuloy karon mo claim na siya appointed son of God. All these crazy.
Well, you can't disprove that too, right? You can't disprove Kibuloy as well.
Amo na, huwag ka kung may mapatay ni Kibuloy, mabangon ba siya? Kay anyone can claim to be God, same way Jesus claimed to be God, which is why many people doubted him. Who is this crazy person? No man ang argument, but either he's a liar, a lunatic, or he's really telling the truth.
Yeah. So we'll find out when Kibuloy dies, right?
Yeah, kung may nawagtang ba yung body or may ng scenario.
At least now we have.
The thing with Christianity, it's unique because of that, because there was a backup of this claim.
Yeah, but it's still what it is, a claim, right? And there's no hard evidence in terms of a video.
Yeah, but I would say,
and it was written 50 years after his death.
And
so.
I would say you can dig up Christianity and try to like.
You know,
look
it's
for
funny that you
loopholes.
mentioned dig up the stories because there's so many similar stories with
So
other.
if I ask you, what is your sense of belief or spirituality? Ikaw, Chigi.
Well, actually, that's a very good question, and I don't think I have a clear answer to that. But like you, I'm also a truth seeker. I'm also trying to listen to as many voices as I can. That's why I'm having this interview with you. That's why I started Pilosopo podcast. It's because I can't do it myself. I need to get as much input as I can. I am I like the way the world looks from the eyes of science. I'm more of a science guy. I like.
I would agree. Science
I'm
has
sure
helped us.
the truth will be. We will be closer to the truth if we use the science as our instrument. Um, so in terms of my spirituality, I think being alive is such a spectacular state. I mean, just being able to breathe, just being able to talk to you. When you look up the night sky, all the beautiful stars, as Carl Sagan would put it, there's a stirring sense of wonder. What the hell are we doing here? What is this?
Exactly. And
I
it's
think
good
that's
to-
my I think that's my spirituality is from. This thing called life is unbelievable. How can it not make you happy? How can it give you more suffering than joy? You've got to be looking at it the wrong way, man, because there have been better Michael Gohos, there are better Jiggy Juniors out there who were never given the chance to exist. Well, I am sure I am nothing compared to those unborn cells. But instead, it was me, it was you who is here on this planet. How lucky are we, right?
Yeah.
It's stupefying, as Richard Dawkins would put it. It's stupefying to just exist in this planet. So how can you not find joy in that, man? Think about it for a while. I mean, I'm sure you have dead friends or relatives, right? They're no longer here, but yet you're still here. I'm still here. How lucky are we, right? I think that's where my spirituality is from. That's where that's the reason why I get up every morning. You know, I have kids. You know, I need to give them as much as I know. You know, I'm not going to indoctrinate them. I'm not going to tell them to believe in whatever I believe in. I'm just going to give them the instruments,
we
right?
don't impose
Yeah.
certain beliefs on other people.
Yeah.
It's not something we, as I said, it's not pinupus.
Yeah, yeah. Mike, what do you think is your advice to those people who are watching this interview right now and are still confused? They still don't know, you know, what to believe in. They still don't know where they are. They're in limbo, like you were 5, 10 years ago, like you mentioned. What do you tell them?
Just seek for truth objectively as you can.
Where do you start? Where do you start? What's the best way to start?
By asking questions.
In our culture, Mike, I'm sure you're familiar with Filipino culture. In fact, the reason why I entitled my show Pilosopo is because Pilosopo is a bad thing in this country, right? Like Pilosopohan mo, like like tumbag ko mong ka. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah, no.
we're discouraged to ask questions.
That's why exactly, and that was explained in C.S. Lewis' Mere Christianity. Like ang tao, they try to impose certain, like duha ka tao, you hear two people arguing. Imagine sila i-argue ng certain truth. Diba? Na, di lagi sa'yo, imong gibuhat, kay maoning sakto. Nadyo yung anang argument pa. So nadyo sense of truth kada tao. Have you heard of that book?
Yeah. Mere Christianity, yeah.
C.S. Lewis.
Yeah.
So mao man to, murag, ang tao na adyoy ka ng basis doon. So where does that basis come from? That sense of unsay sakto, unsay di, or when two people argue. Namin to sa chapter 1 sa Mere Christianity.
So are you recommending that book, Mere Christianity? It's for
I don't
those.
say because it delves into it examines Christianity in a way from an atheist perspective. Because C.S. Lewis was also an atheist. So kana nindot jud ning mga mga tigbasa jud og atheist books because it has helped my sense of my view on Christianity.
You know what Christopher Hitchens once said about the atheism, right? The best way to convert an atheist is to let him read the Bible.
Yeah, many atheists have said that. Like the best way to prove na the Bible is false, just read it. Awang apparent contradictions mo na ilang claim, but usually ilang i-focus on is it's more of an intellectual. The focus is intellectual.
Literal siya, so
wa nila una ang other aspects, the personal aspects of it, behind it.
Let's go back a little bit because I didn't ask you this question. When you say personal, relational, those are the words you use. Relational aspect of
personal relational.
What does that mean exactly? Like, you have a relationship with God. Does God talk back to you when you ask something? Do you hear a voice in your head? What is that? What do you mean?
Through knowing Jesus more relationally.
How do you know a person? How do you know Jesus personally? I can tell you right now. I can know my son, right?
Yeah. For example, adto ka sa imong balay, di mo magstoryaanay, wag mo relasyon. Like you can go to your house every day and not talk to anyone there. So no relationship is formed. So intensely personal na, and that's subjective. Kada tao ka ng relationship nila.
So how do you
subjective? Subjective.
How do you do it?
And that can manifest itself differently for people. Some people, they have a subjective experience with God, but maybe feelings relate to or nara sila yung debate ato. So there has to be an objective and subjective aspect to that relationship.
So how are you fostering? How are you getting to know more of your God, of Jesus Christ?
Basically, to know more through what's written in His Word.
So that's
and through personal life and the application. Mao nang giingon na you objectively look at Scripture, and as it relates to application, that's already subjective. Because you can't dispute also the wisdom found in the Bible or things that are written there na no other self-help book can really offer. Like daghang self-help book na nilingig 12 Rules of Life, itong kang Jordan Peterson, Book of Power, kanang Robert Greene, daghang mga self-help books mo. Ang Bible, if you look at it, it's stood the test of time. It's the best-selling book of all time. And grabe ang...
But that doesn't make it
true. Ang wisdom.
That doesn't make it true if it's the most successful book of all time.
Yeah, but that in it. But you can say that the Bible is unique in itself. Or like ngano na may Bible mugawas jud or...
I'm say Quran. I'm say so many other books.
But you can, as I said, you can look up Christianity and you can try to dig deeper on what Christianity is about.
Okay,
but it's not a religion. It's performance or merit based. It's about someone paying for your sins and murag gidawat naka.
How can you look up Adam and Eve, for example? How do you look that up?
Adam and Eve, as it relates to historical Adam and Eve.
Yeah. How do you look for that?
What we have on Adam and Eve kay nara sa Bible. So that's all we have on it. Because unsa man murag mo big up at historical.
Well, there is a genetic Adam and Eve, right, in Africa, right, 200,000 years ago.
Yeah, pero or are you saying that we came from apes?
No. The first people on the planet roamed in the savannas of Africa.
Yeah, there are things na lisod palagi kuwang pa atong knowledge bro. As I said, this is just like a personal relationship and Christianity.
Do you think in your lifetime, Mike, you will be able to know these burning questions that you have in your heart?
I would say no one can know absolutely everything. Of course, limited naman jud, bro. We can come close by seeking truth, or we can just go about living our lives, but then we would stagnate. In terms of spiritual aspect.
You mentioned you're reading all these books from Jordan Peterson, from Bruce Richard.
Well, I haven't read all Franca, busy.
Oh, yeah. So,
Kaya mamaligya at auto or mga
life happens, right? Life happens.
A lot of things go on in life, so
My question is, where does science come in your search for the truth? Does it play a big part in your truth seeking?
yes, of course. Science, as I said, God, science, or kung ano siya, pares na siya.
But you know what happened to Galileo, right? He said, like the world was not. The world is the center. For a long time, Christians believed that the world is the center of the universe, and he disproved that. And he was in an exile. He was put in exile for his entire life.
That just shows that we're limited. But then, as time goes on,
so the thing with, in fact, it's in the Bible that the earth is in the center of the universe, right? It's clearly written in the Bible that the earth is in the center of the universe. But Copernicus, this idiot, this rebel of a guy, said, no, it's not true. And so he was in exile. In fact, but the Pope eventually, I think in 87, 88, Pope John Paul actually forgave him posthumously. But what I'm trying to say is there's some things in the Bible that is written that is clearly based on the knowledge, the ignorance of that time. So how can an all-knowing, all-powerful God not know that the earth is not the center of the universe?
But as I said, you're asking me these questions. I don't claim to know the answers to this. So, as I said, pareha naman ta, seeker.
Yeah.
So,
Mike,
but there were things written in the Bible that have shown from the book aside.
Okay, we're in the second half of our Pilosopo podcast with the general manager and the EVP of Gateway, the general manager of BMW, Mr. Mike Goho. We are having a very a nice conversation about faith, about religion, about God, and all that stuff. And of course, his position is anti-religion, but pro-God, and he believes in a personal God, a God that. Can you explain to our listeners again the relational aspect of your God? Because I think that's where we ended up.
As I said, what makes Christianity unique is one, it centers on Jesus Christ. Mm-hmm. And Jesus Christ took part in our suffering. And he was crucified to God. So he became a human being, and he was also like a simple human being who made outrageous, audacious claims, but then he was able to back it up. So more original cornerstones of Christianity. But then, if I ask anyone, or if I ask you, would you want to be in the company of such a person who exemplified unconditional love? So, and most would say, kung naitaw mo dawat mo unconditionally, that would be undeniably a yes. Mm-hmm. To have a relationship with this person to exemplify that unconditional love. So basically, that would sum it up in a nutshell.
The world is like you mentioned earlier there are people who cite religious books and took it the wrong way. And
like which books are you referring to?
We're talking about these radical fundamentalists who, for example, rammed a jet airplane into the Empire State Building, right? There was two of them. They believed in their hearts that.
So they're talking about
9/11.
9/11.
9/11. Yeah.
Yeah, religion.
Religion.
As I said, religion has caused a lot of poison in the world. Pagkamatay sila.
Because the books are so vague that it is subject to interpretation every which way. That's why when you analyze
That's why if we look at the Bible,
if you analyze a book, a religious book, the Bible, the Quran, or whatever, it's so vague that if you're a smart person analyzing it, you'll have a different take. If your educational background is this, then you'll have a different take. So. How many strains are there of Christianity? There are probably thousands, right?
There have denominations in Christianity, but then one can look at scripture objectively. When I
how
say objectively, you don't twist or add certain things to the
so you don't
scripture.
twist? What do you mean? Is it an interpretation, a sort of like a
Like if my statement, di lang ka mo assume anything out of that statement. Like take the statement for what it is.
so when you
And don't wrangle it or add certain
when
things.
God removed a rib from Adam and made Eve, how do you interpret that? He just removed a rib out of Eve and then
As I said, biblically,
Oh.
kuwang pa akong
Mm.
knowledge yan. Biblically. So, don't ask me questions so much about
Yeah.
Bible. kuwan kay, as I said, I'm
Yeah,
still
yeah.
in this beginning phase, and I'm inclined to Christianity.
Yeah.
But I don't claim to be Christian because that's
You're not Christian enough.
I'm not Christian enough
to be called Christian.
Maipog sa ko mo claim ko Christian niya. Pasin o niya, matintal ko mo magpahubog. Diba, di man ko ka...
What's wrong with
I
getting a
don't
little tipsy,
want-
man?
Yeah, that's fine.
Oh.
But murag, there's that kunang perception dito. Christian.
Buotan good, ano?
And that's why the claim to be Christian, it's not a light statement.
Mm.
And yet so many would claim that they are Christian.
Well, this nation is a Christian nation.
Yeah.
Predominantly a Christian nation.
Externally, you look, Christian, churchgoers, like daghag ka ng cross sa ilang balay. And for what I mean to say, ang true essence of being a Christian is basically to live the way Christ lived, which is not easy to do because we're all so caught up with how we live our lives, which is for different things. So to live like Christ is, I don't take that lightly. So I don't claim outright na I'm a Christian. Typical Christian.
So to make this world a better place, Mike, what do you suggest in terms of a person watching this podcast? Because that's how podcasts are being consumed. They're being listened to personally in their cars, their headphones, or watching them on YouTube. What is your message to make this world a better place, especially for those watching this right now? What should they do in terms of their faith, their beliefs?
That we don't operate on emotions, but that we look at things as objectively as possible. But as human beings, subjective man jud ang tao. Like we're driven by our feelings, by certain impulses that get the better of us most times. That's why nagkangkig mga lali sa Facebook, sa comment section. Lisod kayo na way kang manap. People are subjective and people lean on what they want to lean on. And that has caused a lot of division, a lot of chaos around. So it would be ideal if people become more objective, but then people are free. So I can't impose on someone, hey, you have to change your ways or you have to go, because people are free. But then with certain truths, we can show people certain truths.
I think one of the things that we need to do is have conversations like this. Don't you think so,
It
Mike?
would be
Yeah.
good to have conversations like this because it tackles on the more essential things in life, which usually unsa may istoryahan sa mga tao karon sa mga bar or sa kanang laag-laag. Musta na niyo say they don't fully disclose everything na pay mga kanang ibang tago or isa.
Yeah, yeah.
But then lahasad na isa taga-impose kay lain-lain man jud ang tao. So no impositions can actually be made. But then we see people are constantly projecting a certain facade and they're out socially. Like it's mostly about externals now, like about acquiring a certain title, a certain designation, or looking good on social media. Mga bitaw ng binuang karon na ang reality versus ang i-project.
When you buy something and then this is what they were selling, and then
People tend to project like a certain image on social media, like they have their life figured out, or like malipayon, like vacation, or kanang good happy marriage. But then in reality, what happens behind closed doors? kaning wife na ni post na in love kaysa siyang bana ga naday to'y lain na or gikan day to motel na nailain ka fling. So in cases like that, people chase after certain externals.
Yeah.
But then that's what some people are given at doing, so we should impose on how people live their lives. But we can show them certain truths or certain things that can, of substance, that can be of help and that can transform. Because many lives have changed by coming to know Jesus. And that's not like a one-time thing, like uban mudawat ni Jesus, usab na sila. Or it's not that simple, because I said to be a Christian is very difficult, and it entails so much struggle and warfare, and it's not easy. But I would say that is growth, and you become more it's becoming to become more selfless, to ego death. Okay, I can get operate on ego and slakay. It's all about money, or it's all about
fame,
self. Yeah. It's all about its self-interest, and that has corrupted the world.
Yeah, for sure. But we're still very successful. We've been around for such a long time. We're 7 billion strong.
Yeah, but we can be successful without
being too many.
Without kanang grabe ka self-driven, daghan kay ruined lives from people in positions of power, stepping on these little guys. So those are unavoidable. Those are things that we can prevent, and that can make the world a better
But
place.
there are other figures.
Because if you imagine if everyone was kanang driven by self, kanang tanan jud, like wala jud selfless nature among the people around, this world would be going like become walay sense of altruism, or walay sense of doing good for other people. Kung saka mo bitaw na ay innate goodness ko ng tao, na people tend to choose to do good things over bad things. But if people choose to just murder, or just steal money, or do whatever things to get ahead, then this world would not be a better place.
Well, it is. Those things that you mentioned, it is actually happening, but maybe
it's happening.
Maybe not to the scale that.
And that's why
think it is.
It's in a sad state. The world is in a sad state, you would say. Murders, killings, abortions, or things to that nature, or kind of petty crimes, or all those things.
Yeah, but then again, the world is getting better.
In certain aspects, but there are certain sad things in the world happening.
Well,
also.
we know about them because of technology. We know about them because there's a GoPro in front of us. We know out there because there's a cell phone. If something happens somewhere in a dark corner of the world and somebody gets killed, somebody can just post a video of that incident. So it becomes viral and everybody knows about that. But the truth is, it rarely happens. And whether the world is getting worse or getting better, I think it's important that, like you, like myself and all our viewers, I think it's crucial for us to examine our lives, to search for the truth, and not just be spoon-fed by the environment in which you were born, right? Not just be spoon-fed by people close to you. Listen to other people, right? Listen to other books. Read opposing views, like you love to read atheist books written by atheists, like Richard Dawkins.
It helped me a lot in terms of learning, because when I talk to people, I always assume there's something they know I don't. So there's something to learn from talking to you. I can learn things. And if we're objective, then it doesn't become heated, and then we know things, and things get better. We improve, or our knowledge goes up.
And I think what we both now know today, Mike, is that we don't know enough. And I think we need to talk some more. Maybe bring your friend Earl Opinion. Maybe this is a standing interview.
Yeah, you can interview him next week.
Yeah, whatever. Yeah.
So because Earl is yeah, he has studied the Bible more extensively than
Yeah.
me. As I said, this journey has only been like a year and a half,
Okay.
and I even had a lot of struggles along the way. And plus, I'm caught up with all these secular activities. I have.
Secular activities like selling cars.
Selling cars, and
I love the way you put it. Secular activities like selling cars.
and pleasing our customers.
Yeah.
So, but it's been a fun journey, and I wouldn't trade it for anything. Like what I know now compared to what I know 3 years ago, it's much better, and it has given me more peace
Mhm.
in my life now. So, why should anyone stop seeking truth?
All right. Thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen. The General Manager of BMW and the EVP for Gateway Motors, Mr. Michael Goho. Thank you so much, Mike. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.